welcome. We are excited to be presenting for the Self-Direction Conference. Today, we will be explaining the role of support coordination in self-direction. I'm Christina Rappisi, Director of Support Coordination with Values into Action.
And I'm Amy Watts, the Coordinator of Learning and Development at Neighbours, Inc. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So, we want to compare support coordination to a travel agent. I know, one of those older sort of thoughts. But if you were going to go on a really nice, very complicated vacation, so let's pretend you're going to take a cruise somewhere and you need to fly to the port and you have certain excursions that you want to do. So if you were going to spend a decent amount of money on a vacation, you would want to know the details, right? So there might be one airline that you prefer. Like, nope, I'm flying Southwest because I will not pay for baggage fees. Not doing it. That's the one I want to use. So you would choose that. You'd have a certain cruise company that you prefer. Oh no, that one I haven't heard good things about one, so I'm going to go use that one. That one's going to the location I want to do. And then you look through all their restaurants and you have some choices of restaurants and you have this really great choice of which package you want to buy and which excursions you want to do. So you'd sit there and say, oh, I want to do this kind of excursion. I want to go on that adventure. I want to go do that with whale watching or whatever, right? So support coordination is a lot like that travel agent that helps you to organize all that and say, oh, you tell us, hey, I want to do this sort of thing. I want to go find a job in this industry. I want to go explore gardening. I want to go volunteer. This is what gives me joy. This is what I want to do. And the funding comes from a state budget from DDD based on your tier. So we are the person who helps you say, okay, you can afford X amount of hours or X amount of classes or things along those lines, but you've already come into it saying like, hey, these are the things I like to do. Our role here is to listen to all those great things and help you make all that happen within the parameters of what's available for supports and services.
Okay, so what does support coordination do with you? So your support coordinator acts as your sidekick, someone you can bounce ideas off of, discuss your schedule. We can help you reach your true vision of what you want for your life. So we're the person that's going to connect you to supports through DDD, Medicaid, and most importantly, your local community. We are here to connect you to both paid and unpaid resources. So some of the questions your support coordinator may ask you are, where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? What do you want to do with your day? Do you want to work? Where would you like to work? What supports would you need or want to act on those dreams? So our role is to help each person build and sustain a system of support to do all of the things that I've just described. So living where and with whom you want to live with, being a part of your community, either working, just hanging out, having fun, volunteering, and then building relationships and connections in your community as well. So everything we suggest is based on your preferences. So it may look different for you than it does for your friend. Or, you know, say your brother's doing X, Y, and Z, and you say, nope, I'd rather do A, B, and C. It's going to look different for each person. Everyone's lives are different. Everyone's at a different point in their life. Everyone has different interests. So we're going to help you to figure that out and talk you through that conversation. Next slide, please. So in other words, or just sort of a longer version of what I've just explained, you're given DDD funding and you're linked with a support coordinator. We're going to help you to connect with those services to utilize the funds as Amy had earlier described. So once you get set up with a service, the support coordinator will check in with you monthly, come out and visit you, every quarter, if not, more often as needed. And we'll monitor what's working and what's not working. So are there changes that you'd like to make to something that you had originally agreed to, and you figure out that you're not really into it anymore, so you'd like to add and revise it, or just end it, completely and change it to something else? So some examples of that are, maybe you wanted to do a cooking class and you start taking this cooking class in your, local community after they've agreed to accept the DDD funding, because that is a big step in that process. And you start taking this cooking class and you realize these people just aren't my people. I'm not into it. I thought I liked cooking. Maybe it's the people here. I'm not really into it. I'm going to change it to this other cooking class down the road in the next town over. And you start going there and you realize it's not the people. I just don't want to cook. So you call us up and you say, you know what, Christina, I'm not into this anymore. I want to end the cooking class. And I've thought about it and I want to start taking an art class. So there's a local art class that you find, and that's agreed to accept the funding. And you start taking art classes and you really enjoy that. And then you say, you know what, I have a lot of other free time on other days. I'm taking this art class on Monday nights. I want to do something on Wednesday nights because I have that night free. And you realize that there is a volunteer opportunity, that you've made that connection in that art class. And now you want to volunteer. Someone's told you about this animal shelter you want to volunteer at. So you say, you know what, on Wednesdays, I'm going to volunteer at this animal shelter, but I need someone to get me there. I need someone to come with me, stay with me, drive me there, drive me back home. Maybe I want to stop and run some errands on my way home. So we'll connect you to individual support, so a direct support professional. So you interview some provider agencies and you choose one that you like. You get set up with someone that has similar interests, that their schedule works with your schedule. You have a good vibe with the person and you start the services. So they come and pick you up on Wednesdays, take you down to the animal shelter. You guys hang out, do your volunteer work. And then on the way home, you say, you know what, I have to stop at the store and grab some groceries. And maybe that person even helps you back at home, make something for dinner, get you set up, and then you end your day. Say, a few weeks from then, you realize, I don't know, I'm not really getting along with this person that's coming to take me out. I thought we had a good connection, but I don't know, it's not, the person's late. They're kind of flaky. They canceled on me a couple times. And because they're canceling on me, I can't do what I'd like to do, which is volunteer at the animal shelter. So you call up your support coordinator and you say, I need a new person. So we'll have that conversation, talk through what's working with that person, what's not working with that person. And we'll go back to the provider with you and say, this isn't working. They'd like to look for someone else. And at any time, you can change your services. It's good to have a backup plan and not just jump kind of to conclusions and end services completely and then be left with nothing, unless it's absolutely like horrible, right? But it's good to kind of have backup plans. So while they're searching for a new person, this person's not that bad, right? So maybe let them pick you up and take you to the animal shelter so you can continue to volunteer, but then you're also meeting with new support staff that may be better suited for you. So we talked about cooking, we talked about volunteering. It could be as simple as, I want to go grab a cup of coffee. They opened up this new coffee shop down the road for me. It's always happening. I want to see what it is about. Let's go check it out. You go and you get a cup of coffee. Then on Saturdays, there's a cool farmer's market in Metuchen that you want to check out. And you make plans with your support person to take you there. And maybe that's your Saturday thing. It's geared towards what you want to do with your time. So maybe that's, there's local festivals, especially with the weather getting nicer, right? There's going to be a lot of festivals coming up, food truck festivals, seafood festivals. all types of different things. You know, maybe there's a local gym that you want to go to. One of your friends goes there and they talk good things about it, so you want to check it out too, and you have a workout buddy. The art classes or cooking classes. So we'll take you through this process step by step, because I know as I'm talking, it can seem very overwhelming. It's a lot of different things going on at one time. So what the support coordinator, a good support coordinator, will help you to do is break it down into steps. So first, you get set up with one thing. It's going pretty well. You feel comfortable and confident in that one activity. And then you say, I want to add a second activity. And then you start researching that. You find something, you start doing that. Maybe, you know, it doesn't go so well. You got to start, you know, back at the beginning and figure out, you know, this isn't working. You get that set up, and then you say, you know what? I want to add another activity into my weekly schedule. And then you let us know, like when you're set up and you feel good, then you say, I'm good. I like what I'm doing. I don't need to add anything else. I feel confident in what I'm doing. I'm comfortable. I'm meeting good people. I'm getting more people into my circle of support. And we'll just continue to check in and monitor and see that things are going well. If at any time that changes, then your support coordinator is there to assist you. So really, we're offering, you know, options and choices for you to consider. You may bring things to the table, right? We're going to bounce ideas off of one another. What we don't do for you is make decisions for you. So we're not going to say, you know what, I think that on Mondays you should do this, and on Wednesdays you're going to go here, and on Fridays you're staying home. We're not going to do that for you. You're going to come to us and we're going to sort that out with you. We're not choosing providers or supports for you. We can connect you to them, and then you're going to go through that process of asking questions and seeing if they're a good fit for you. So we'll tell you what your budget is. And when you let us know what services you want to enter, we can tell you how much is left, how much you're spending in this particular service, but we're not going to tell you how much of it to spend. Again, you can always add and revise. So say with your support person, you're like, I really only have time for 5 hours a week with this person right now. And you start doing 5 hours a week, and then you realize, I have more time. I want to up it to 15 hours a week. And as you get more activities and you make more connections in your community, you make more friends, you're hanging out at the coffee shop, you're hanging out at the gym, you go to the rec center, you go to the farmer's market, and you say, I need more hours. I need 30 hours a week with my support person. Maybe you want 2 separate people to be your support people, right? Maybe you want 15 hours with one person because that person likes cooking and art, and 15 hours with the other person because that person likes to go to the farmer's market and to the festivals. So you can break apart your services how you choose, as long as they stay within budget, which we can help you to figure that out. We're not here to supervise your support staff. So that's going to be between yourself and the support staff. You'll come up with a schedule. You'll have conversations. We can help you to learn how to have those conversations and offer you pointers on what to ask and what to look out for. But if you're having a particular issue, we're not going to call up and yell at your support staff for you. So we're not going to find you a job, but we can connect you to a job coach who can run through that process with you, building your resume, doing the interview, and then following you along within that job. That would be up to the job coach. And we can always offer suggestions, of course, too, because, you know, obviously we like to be in the same area as you, right? We try to connect with people in the same areas with support coordination. Not all support coordination agencies do that, because a lot are statewide, right? So you may have someone that doesn't live in your local community, but if you're lucky enough to have someone that lives in your local community, they can suggest things to you, right? And Google is a great tool. You can Google, you know, what's going on in Old Bridge, New Jersey this weekend. Different things may pop up. So if we hear of anything, we can certainly let you know, but we're not going to decide 100%, you know, what you're going to do with your time. Okay.
Thanks. As Christina mentioned, a support coordinator is there to create a relationship with you, to have conversations back and forth. The other things, other than just kind of deciding what to do with your day, as Christina mentioned, we help you create a circle of supports. That's the human beings in your life that help you to do the stuff that you want to do. I have a friend that I met through my church community who is my movie buddy. So I have a husband and 2 sons. They do not want to go to see the girly movies with me. They're not. So I have my friend from church and she is my movie buddy. So that's part of my circle of support. The people in your life that you do certain things with, it could be their brother or sister who is the person who helps you with your finances. And that's kind of all they do. They make sure that your rent is paid or that your cell phone doesn't get turned off and all that sort of fun stuff. Maybe it's your next door neighbor turns into that person who is your gym buddy. So they go to the same gym you do, they're retired, they pick you up, you guys go to the gym together. So it doesn't, in fact, it really shouldn't be kind of all about services and supports, but so we help you to develop this circle of supports, which are human beings in your life that help you to do the stuff that's important to you. Say you want to take bold steps, you're ready. You're like, you know what? I'm done volunteering. I have this great talent for crochet. I've done my classes. I want to start up my own Etsy. I want to go on Etsy. I want to sell my things. This is what I want to do as my job. This is what's important to me. So we help you along those lines, and we figure out what resources you need and what staffing supports you need to kind of help you to create a schedule, to get online, to monitor things, to make sure your purchases have gone through, all that sort of fun stuff. If that's what you're ready for, then we're here for you. Say you are ready to move out on your own. You're like, you know what? Mom and dad love you, man. I want my own place. That's a pretty bold move. We will be there to help you along the way to figure out what steps and what resources can be there for you to be able to financially afford it and to be able to have the supports you need to be really successful in that environment. Or, as Christina mentioned, you're good. You've got this kind of rich day, or you've got your day off because you're like, I need a break. I don't want to do anything on Fridays. That doesn't work for me. And you've got things and they're humming along. Then our job is just to check in to make sure everything's still okay and to make sure that things are lined up to maintain what it is that you've figured out and you want to do. Some of the scary and some of the harder conversations to have are what happens next. So when the primary caregiver is gone, when mom and dad are no longer able to be that person for you right there and then to help you to do everything or help make the decisions on what happens in your life. So now what happens? So we are there to help you with those sort of guided conversations. We'll ask lots of really deep questions about what things should and can look like for you in the future. And if it's time to take some of those steps to make that happen, we do that in a planful and meaningful way. As a parent, I know one of the scariest things is what's going to happen to my kids in the future. Our job is to help you to have those thoughts, to have those conversations, and to put steps into place or put a plan in place so that your worry maybe is a little bit less about that, to make sure that I know what's going to happen to me when mom's not here to kind of help me to do that, or you know what's going to happen to your son or daughter or loved one when you're not there to be able to take care of all the things that you take care of. Because as caregivers, your to-do list never ends. And so identifying the other people or supports and services that's going to happen for that can be really, really important. We can help guide you in that process and know what's available and what's possible using a DDD budget as well as some community resources. Decipher and explain DDD and Medicaid supports and services. If you are already in the system, welcome, congratulations. You already know how complicated this system is. There is many rules and regulations. There's a lot of forms. There's a lot of things to be filled out. There's an order and a process that you need to do everything. One of the main things that's kind of complicated, which is one of the richest supports that's available with self-direction, is staffing supports. So whether you're utilizing community-based supports or you're utilizing individual supports, depending on which budget you have, there are different rules and different ways to do things with your multiple paths, right? So you can hire an agency like Christina was talking about, which is a direct support professional. You can hire a person. Hey, my cousin is wonderful. She and I love to go to those festivals. You can hire just your cousin through 2 different agencies, which are some of the people sponsoring this conference, which is Easter Seals and Public Partnerships. You can choose which one of those agencies works best for you and your family, because things work different ways. Or you can even use a service called Supports Brokerage, which you've heard about in other sessions, which is a person that helps you to then find those people or those DSPs that works for you. So your support coordinator is there to talk through the pros and cons of each, to offer you sort of this buffet of choices, and to help guide you with, hey, knowing you and your family, maybe one of these options might work well for you, because I know that this is the ultimate goal. The one of these 3 options may be what will work well for you, and help you to have the information that you need to make informed choices about what works for you, and make it all happen kind of on the back end through some computer systems and through some paperwork and things like that. We are social people. We need other people. Studies have shown that people who are isolated have more health concerns, have higher rates of depression and anxiety. And we all know that, like, you need some people, right? You need the people who like the same things that you do. So one of our roles with support coordination is to try to help you to identify the places in your community where you find your people, where you feel like you belong. It took my son until he was a sophomore in high school to figure out that theater was his thing. So my son literally sat and said, I found my people. And many years later, he is still doing theater and all sorts of stuff like that. He found the community of people where he felt like he belonged. Maybe that's a faith community. Maybe that's something that you like, this is the religion or the faith community that works for me. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's like, hey, I like helping the elderly. I really enjoy being with animals. I want to make sure that nobody goes hungry. So maybe there's something you're passionate about and you find your people and where you belong. There is nothing better than walking into a place and have someone say, oh, hey, oh, I'm so glad you're here. Wow, let's, I'm glad because we've got this we need to do. I'm glad you're here to help. I'm glad you're here to do that. People can find that through volunteering. They can find that through taking classes or courses. They can find that through employment. There's lots of different ways. Again, this whole buffet of options of ways to make that happen. We're here to help talk that through, have some really deep, rich conversations, and find out what's going to work well for you to make you feel like you've found the place where you belong. And as we all know, people with any type of disability, that's harder, right? It's either due to accessibility because you utilize a wheelchair to get around. It could be because you don't use lots of words to communicate. It could be because you like to bounce around and you need some space to move. Sometimes it's harder. We're here to help guide and help offer suggestions and to talk through figuring out what works for you. So that was to kind of the last point on this slide, is that we're here. We're here to listen to your challenges. We love to hear the good stuff too. I love it when my phone rings and says, hey, let me tell you what really worked well for us today. Because what we learn from what works well, we learn just as much as from what doesn't work well. Hey, you know that staff we found? It's not working, like Christina was mentioning. Or, you know what? That cooking class, I don't like it. I don't feel good. It feels like people are looking at me. I'd rather do it a different way. You learn just as much from trying and it not working than trying and it working. So we want to hear both. We want to hear what's working, what's not working, and so we can find solutions and figure out what next steps are going to really work for you. Okay, everyone loves The Far Side. It's one of my favorite cartoons. So this one says, freeze. Okay, now, who's the brains of this outfit? And so if you can see the picture, you can obviously see there's one guy with a really huge head. He's got all the answers. That's you. Okay, we are here to support you and to offer options and to help you think through things, but you have all the answers. You know what works for you. You figured out what doesn't work for you. You know what you like. You know what you don't like. You know where you want to be and where you are comfortable, and you know where you're uncomfortable. So you already have all the answers. Our job as a support coordinator is to help ask the right questions to get you to where all that great information turns into a wonderful, meaningful life with thoughts about the future, with thoughts about hopes and dreams, and helps match you with the things and the supports that's going to make that happen. Let's talk a little bit of what that actually looks like. This sounds really, really good, right? This sounds great. I get to have people, I get to go to these festivals, I get to do these wonderful things. But let's talk through, we're going to give you a couple of scenarios of what that actually looks like for a couple of people that we support.
Okay, so we're currently supporting a young man who loves to act, sing, and dance. He had some classes that he was interested in taking. We helped to set up those classes. And now we've been getting videos of him from his father. And he is absolutely having an amazing time. He's so into it. He signs up for all the plays. He does dances. I think he sang the national anthem at a local community event. And, you know, his family's beyond excited for him. He loves it. And it's been a huge success for him. We have another person who loves going to Wawa. And so one of the programs that this individual was attending had set him up with a job at Wawa. And he's now doing the coffee bar. So I had the privilege of going to visit him at work one time and, you know, grab myself a cup of coffee. And there he was, cleaning up the coffee bar, restocking the creamers, straightening up. He absolutely loves it. And then there's a third person that we are currently supporting that needed his home to be more accessible to him. So he had a modification done to have a deck and a ramp attached to the house. And not only does it allow for him to get in and out of his house more easily, but now he loves to go outside. He sits outside, especially now that the warmer weather's coming. He'll sit outside in the sun. He loves to watch the birds and just hang out for a moment and kind of relax, have a moment of silence, decompress. And so here it was allowing him to have his home fully accessible, but he's finding joy in that, just sitting out there and relaxing.
What's great is that, shocker and surprisingly, I also support a gentleman who had a deck and a ramp added onto the back of his home. He utilized it for a different reason though. So the same thing, we used a home modification through his budget to add this really beautiful deck and seating area and ramp to his house. But he likes to have a woodworking table. So he's got this great large kind of wooden structure where he's able to roll his wheelchair up to it, and he paints things and he builds birdhouses, and he even just kind of bangs on it and uses screwdrivers and nails. And this is something that he really enjoyed doing, but had a hard time getting access to it. So trust me, Mom is thrilled with the fact that this is now outside and not in her basement, so that he can go out there and bang away and it's not inside the house and reverberating through the house. And he really loves that he gets to go out again, enjoy the beautiful sunshine, enjoy a great day. His staff kind of sits right with them and kind of helps them, and they do wood projects together, but he gets to roll right out of his house onto his deck and into right where his wooden workshop table is. So like we were talking about before, what looks like the same for one thing, we both did home modifications, but it looks different from one guy who likes to go out and just be in the quiet and watch some birds, to my guy who's pounding away with some hammers and some nails on a wooden table. And it works for both of them. And it still built the deck and had a ramp, which also added more accessibility and some safety outside of his home as well. I have another gentleman who's an older gentleman whose mom was in her 90s, and Mom is his primary caregiver. And my gentleman has 4 sisters. And the sisters and Mom became very concerned about the day when Mom is no longer able to physically care for him. And we were kind of concerned about it. And so it actually took us multiple conversations, but what as their coordinator, I facilitated some planning conversations where we just sat down initially and we started out with like, let's toss out ideas. Nothing's a bad idea. Let's just toss some ideas of what should or could life look like for this gentleman when when mom's no longer able to take care of him. And then that conversation happened and we narrowed it down to kind of plan A, B, and C. We then came back later and we said, okay, so a plan nothing happens unless we actually choose a plan. So I tasked them with, hey, you got to pick one of these three. These are three great plans. Let's pick one of these plans. So they had some more internal family conversations and we came back with, okay, we want plan A. And plan A was that one of the sisters was going to go get a house that had an in-law suite, and mom and my gentleman were going to live inside the in-law suite. So sister's there the whole time to kind of back up both mom and this guy's support. We talk about it and I'm watching mom and mom starts doing this. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, mom, what's the matter? And she sits there and she says, that sounds wonderful and all, but I can't move. And sister's like, Mom, what do you mean? She says, I can't move from this house. This is the house I was with my husband with. This is the house I raised you all in. I can't move. Okay, plan A went out the window. Plan B and C went out the window too. So plan D happened. We were able to find an apartment that this gentleman lives in with two roommates, and he likes the roommates that he's with. He has 24/7 supports because that's the level of supports he needs. But he did move out of mom's house. And what we did to make sure that the relationship continued is every weekend he goes and spends the weekend with mom. And sisters are there to support him and they watch over everything that happens. But it turned out really well because he's in his own space, because mom is now in her much later 90s and she's still with us. And one thing she remembers, and the one thing she absolutely wants to do, is spend time with her son. So we make sure that happens, as well as making sure that he's got the supports he needs. So it was one of those really big, bold moves that took lots of conversations, but it showed sort of the evolution of how one idea, although sounded really great, just absolutely couldn't happen. So we shifted gears and did something else. So that's the stories we have for today. We want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. We will be available in the chat to answer some questions, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for your time, everyone.